Once again, welcome back everyone. As you may be aware, IOSCO is the international body that brings together the world's security regulators and is recognized as the global standard setter for financial markets regulation. We are extremely delighted to inform that Mr. Jean-Paul Servais, Chairman, IOSCO, Board has sent a video message on this occasion. Let's have a look at the video, please.
Hello everyone. Allow me first of all to thank my colleagues at the International Financial Services Center Authority, and in particular the IFSC Chair, Shri for the really kind invitation to speak today. I have to tell you that I am sorry that I couldn't be with you in person due to other private commitments. But if I may, allow me today to speak about IOSCO and the work that we are doing as a well-known international standard setter for financial markets. And I will therefore focus specifically on the area of work around financial technology, as this is the central topic of the conclave. For those who don't know IOSCO, and it's quite normal, I don't think that everybody all around the world know what it means, IOSCO, but just to tell you that IOSCO means the international body that brings together the world's securities regulator. Together, all members around the world in charge of the supervision of 95% of the global financial market. So it means, in other words, that IOSCO is the place to be for international enforcement cooperation for financial markets. What does it mean? It means, for instance, that in 2025, IOSCO members exchange information on 6,137 instances, with more than 90% of the requests being successfully executed in less than 100 days. When I arrived for the first time around the table of the IOSCO board, already 20 years ago, as I would say board member, I have to tell you that at the time that we launched the MMOU, we were used to exchange every year 50 times a year. So you see the journey and the successful story of the IOSCO MMOU. But besides international enforcement cooperation, IOSCO is mostly known, I have to say, as standard setting body. And over the years, IOSCO has known several key achievements. Of course, ladies and gentlemen, you will understand that I will not be able to do full justice to our work today, but allow me to provide a few illustrative examples of how IOSCO standards shaped global financial frameworks. For instance, do you know that IOSCO paved the way for jurisdiction regulate credit rating agency? We were the first cross-border international membership organization to release report about rating agency just after the global financial crisis, the subprime crisis in 2008-2009. We developed also principles for financial benchmark, which are now the gold standards for financial indices worldwide and have inspired legislation across the jurisdiction. Indeed, we don't have any kind of political legitimacy, and we are used from time to time, ladies and gentlemen, to release principles. Our principles are not binding. Our principles are high level because we know around the table that we are not the spokesman of the government, of our jurisdiction, and of course the legitimacy, the political legitimacy is at a national level and up to the government to decide if they think, if they believe in the quality of our principle, which is, I think, most of the time the case. Another example of a capacity to bring together securities regulator about your objective is, for instance, what we have been able to do about collective investment scheme and of alternative fund. Yes, I think also that I am not exaggerating when I say that across the world, the regulation of collective investment scheme and of alternative funds is largely funded on this same IOSCO principles and report. And a related matter, and more recently, we finalized recommendation for open-ended investment funds in partnership with the FSB, the Financial Stability Board, in 2023 to ensure appropriate liquidity management. Also in 2023, we published our first recommendation for the regulation of crypto and digital asset and for decentralized finance. In fact, I have to say that I'm not surprised that my colleague from the IFSCA asked me to speak to our work on financial technology, just because I had the pleasure of visiting Mumbai some time ago and SEBI last year, and frankly speaking, I witnessed how advanced and sophisticated the technology is here in India. And I'm saying that in order to be diplomatic or polite for you, that's really what I mean. I was really impressed by the quality and the sophistication of the technology used by my colleagues in India. And I know you are leading the state-of-the-art initiative in integrating technology in your daily activities. But in fact, it's also fair to say that all IOSCO members are looking into this question and how to achieve a robust and pro-innovation regulatory framework. And the reason is that the market changes driven by technology aren't cosmetic. As you know, they are structural. Innovation often occurs at the boundary of regulatory oversight, creating challenges for authorities to understand and address associated risk. And to overcome such challenges, authorities have adopted a range of approaches to facilitate responsible innovation. Artificial intelligence, tokenization, crypto assets, DLT, distributed ledger technologies, and emerging computing capabilities are reshaping, as we know, financial market in ways that are directly relevant to IOSCO mandate on investor protection, market integrity, and financial stability, in particular, given their cross-border dimension and the pitfalls of fragmented regulation. That's, I think, the real added value of IOSCO, because IOSCO serves as a global standard setter, and it acts as a bridge builder by providing global solutions to global challenges to financial market. And using a principle-based regulatory approach, we aim to ensure that financial development and innovation are met with a current, proportionate, and high-quality regulatory response. We have also, ladies and gentlemen, advanced our shared vision for other new development of digital finance, such as artificial intelligence and tokenization. And that's the reason why we produced our first global analysis on the use cases of tokenization of financial assets across jurisdictions. And amongst other, we noticed an emergence of stock tokens which provide exposure to the price performance of company stocks, but without granting shareholder rights. However, investors might not be correctly informed that they are investing in a product other than the underlying stocks. Building on our report in 2021 and 2025, we will also continue to work on the impact of artificial intelligence to the financial sector. The reason is easy to understand. Digital finance has opened capital market to millions of retail investors, and it can genuinely help households to save and invest more effectively. But at the same time, it's also fair to say that retail investors are increasingly exposed to fraud schemes elaborated with the help of artificial intelligence and propagated on large online platforms and social media. IOSCO framework for cross-border cooperation between our members, in charge of the supervision of 95% of all the financial markets all around the world, is of course facilitated their investigation and enforcement action against fraudsters in an increased digitized cross-border investment landscape covering all types of financial instrument and investment. And we see behavioral risk amplified by gamification techniques, exposure to misleading online advice, and algorithmic biases in robo-advice or automated financial recommendation. And we are also finding new ways to combat online scams that proliferate on social media platforms. Clearly, we need to educate retail investors to strengthen their critical judgment, and as many people know, I am a real supporter of financial education. In my country, for instance, the Belgium's financial supervisor that I'm also chairing is, I would say, in the first line in order to develop and to implement a very ambitious financial education program called Wikifin. And what does it mean for a regulator? It means that our traditional investor protection lens must broaden. Financial resilience today is not just about access to markets. It's about building strong safeguards in a digital environment to ensure that trust remains. And this is precisely why we work on recommendations for the regulation of neo-brokers, of digital engagement practices and influence. To me, this sounds like a lot of very important and promising work. And yet, ladies and gentlemen, this isn't the end because our work doesn't stop the day that we publish recommendation. The second leg of our work is indeed about capacity building and monitoring the implementation of our standards so that they get implemented across jurisdictions. And for all of this, ladies and gentlemen, I am really confident that IOSCO must be, is and will be helpful to its members and to investors globally. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to really thank you for your attention and I wish you an insightful conclave today.